Good day, everybody. Welcome to Two Way tonight. Two massive stories. There's other little stories in our world, but two massive stories. President Zelensky is standing athwart as best he can the Russia-U.S. peace agreement, and don't know where it stands. We'll talk about it, but it's a quite an unusual situation and quite a complicated one, and culmination of what's been going on. So not a shock, uh, but the terms I continue, as I've said since it was revealed what's in the plan. I continue to just be amazed that this is actually what's on offer. And then this afternoon in the Oval Office, different stakes, different situation, but the photo opportunity, the Q&A between the president and Mayor-elect Mamdani was more friendly than anyone could have imagined. Truly extraordinary. The graciousness that they showed towards each other, even as reporters tried to sow discord between them. They were consistently supportive, focused on affordability, and focused on working together, mutual respect, a mutual agenda. And if you've seen this president in photo opportunities with someone he likes, you know that even then there's occasionally a little bit of passive aggressiveness and a little bit of teasing, sharp teasing. There was none of that. I'll show you one moment right off the top, just to give you a flavor of just how friendly this was. One of the things many of the reporters tried to do was to sow discord between the two men by citing their past statements about each other. So they asked President Trump about calling Mamdani a communist. They asked Mamdani about saying the president was a fascist. And first time he was asked about the fascist remark, he played it down. Okay. And then the second time he was asked about it, he dodged it, I should say. Then he started to give an answer where he was clearly going to play it down. And look what the president of the United States did. Sam, if you can roll that.
Affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about.
That's okay. You can just say
okay.
yes.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
That double pat, again, if you're a student at all of Donald Trump, that's bonkers. And it's great for those of us who live in New York who think it's in the city's interest to have the two of them get along. The whole thing was like that. The whole thing for more than 25 minutes, just a love affair. And we'll look at some more of it. I thought it might be friendly, but I would defy anyone to say that they predicted it would be as friendly as it was. Mark Caputo is here, a great White House reporter from Axios, who is such a good reporter that he can cover the White House from South Florida. And he and I will run through these two big stories. We'll probably start with Ukraine because it's interesting and as important as this photo op has been. The fate of Europe and the world is hanging in the balance. So we'll talk about that first. And there's a lot to run through on that. Lots of developments today on some level, although on another level, nothing much has happened, which is to say the Ukrainians haven't accepted the plan, and it's not really clear where we head next. Other things, the story that has been around for a couple of days about this Democratic video that has set Republicans off about following unlawful orders. Lots of developments on that. Again, incremental. Ghislaine Maxwell says that she'd plead the fifth if the Congress tried to get her to come testify. And so the Chairman Comer says he's not going to waste taxpayer money to try to get her to come. And there's an interesting poll on the Democratic Party's 2028 presidential campaign out of the Silver State, the state where Las Vegas is, the state whose name I can never pronounce correctly when I'm on the air, so I don't even try. It's a super interesting poll, and we'll look at that as well. All right. Quick word from a sponsor, then Mark will come in. We'll talk about Ukraine. We'll talk about this extraordinary photo op with the president. Cozy Earth, our great sponsors, once again, want you to know that they're having an insane 40% off sale, 40% off the whole site. Black Friday comes early. You can use the code TWOWAY to get 40% off everything. You say, well, obviously they'd exempt the bubble cuddle blanket and the bamboo pajama set. That couldn't be 40% off. It must be a little notation on the site that says, no, well, no 40% off here. Actually, wrong. Yes, 40% off bamboo pajama set, 40% off bubble cuddle blanket, 40% off towels and sheets, and of course the pants. I'll tell you, gentlemen, again, if you want the person in your life to say, Doug Allen, I love the cut of your jib. You've never looked so good. Did you lose weight? Did you get a new haircut? What is it? No, it's the Cozy Earth pants. Any of them, you can buy any of them. Most comfortable pants you've ever worn, and they look great. And you can wear them literally the same pair of pants to the beach as you would wear to a cocktail party or dinner party or church. They're extremely nice. Anyway, wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Go to cozyearth.com, promo code two-way for 40% off. All right. I couldn't be happier to have Mark Caputo here. Of all the regulars we have who join us, who else could talk Ukraine and Mamdani with equal facility? Maybe no one. Mark, welcome. How's everything?
Good. I raised my hand when you said no one had predicted that they would be this friendly. I had said that this morning on our morning call that, everyone thinks it's going to be some sort of Donnybrook, but it's in both of their interests to be friendly. Now, you did qualify it by saying no one predicted they'd be as friendly as this. And so there, I probably agree with you.
Yeah.
But a few things. One, Mamdani is new at this, and he's very clever and he's very charming. Two, Trump is old at this, and he's very clever and he's very charming. And in the end, I think the two of them have much more to gain in not being toxic at this moment, but especially Trump. Just a few days ago, who's the pollster for Rasmussen Reports? I cannot remember his name at the moment.
This is called Mr. Pollster for Rasmussen Reports.
Mr. Pollster. He was on Alex Jones yesterday and spoke about going to the White House and informing the White House and Trump about their problems that they have with young voters and how politicians like Mamdani are much more attractive. And now, lo and behold, here's Donald Trump, for lack of a better term, sort of palling around with Mamdani.
Yeah.
I think it's going to cause a few people's heads to explode.
Mark, including House Republicans, who, of course, wanted to run their whole campaigns demonizing Mamdani.
Hold on. They're voting today, I think,
to
on a socialism condemnation resolution.
Yeah. And right? Here's the president playing it down and playing up his shared agenda with Mamdani. Mark, I'll challenge you to this because you know me, I love hyperbole. I'll eat a corn dog.
Mark Mitchell, by the way, is the pollster from
Mark Mitchell. Thank you. Yes,
Mark,
sir.
Sorry. Okay.
That's okay. I'll eat a corn dog at the Florida State Fair, and I'll say this is the best corn dog. This is the best corn dog I've ever had.
I'll eat corn dogs.
I'll stay in a Ritz-Carlton. I'll say this is the nicest room I've ever stayed in. I cannot remember Donald Trump being as affable in any photo op with anybody. Literally. I mean, not with Mike Johnson, not with a football team. I mean,
did you see him?
Yeah.
Boy, I don't want to use an inappropriate verb. Gush.
Yeah.
Over Mohammed bin Salman.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, there you go.
This was, to me, I watched that whole thing too. This to me seemed like gratuitously friendly. I'll tell you why I think it's different.
Did you lose money on this on your prediction, Mark?
I'll tell you what the difference is with MSB, right? It was MBS. Sorry, MBS. It was formal. It was a little formal. There was some jocularity, but it was formal. This version of Trump, and this is an added feature of this photo op besides the news story of how friendly they were. This is like what Trump is really like. When he's like, this is what Trump's like at Mar-a-Lago.
100%.
This is what 100%. Trump's like if he's in a good mood. If you're on in the olden days when I would fly on Trump Force One, if he was in a good mood, this is what he was like. Charming, affable, and super concerned about the other person's feelings. Like the thing we showed you, every time there was any danger to his guest, Trump stepped in a very affable way.
Yeah.
And it's quite something. All right, we'll come back to it. We're going to show a little bit, but let's talk about Ukraine. A lot of extraordinary developments, and including here's Trump in the photo op with the mayor-elect saying, again, Ukraine has no choice but to take this deal.
I've spoken with their people. We have a plan. It's horrible what's happening. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I was president, and it's a shame. And I thought they should have acted quicker. But it's a cold winter, and a lot of the you talk about utilities, but a lot of the big energy-producing plants have been under attack. To put it mildly, to put it nicely. We have a way of getting peace, or we think we have a way of getting peace. He's going to have to approve it. Just so sad, so many people. You know, last month they lost 25,000 soldiers. This is something, we haven't seen anything like this since the Second World War. They're averaging 6,000 or 7,000 a week between the two of them, dead soldiers. And it goes on and on. And I think they're getting reasonably close, but I don't want to predict. I would have said that would have been one of my early ones. I did 8 peace deals of countries, including in India, Pakistan. You could even go, in fact, they're coming here in a week or two, go to the Congo and Rwanda. That was 10 million people dead, and we worked something out on that. But so many. And the one I thought would have been, for me, because I have a very good relationship with President Putin, I thought that would have been maybe quicker. But it does take 2 to tango. And now you just see all the death. And, you know, it doesn't affect us other than the fact that we don't want to see all those people that really it's on the other side of the ocean. It's a war that should have never happened. It did happen. I blame the person also sitting right behind this desk. This is a war that should have never happened, and it wouldn't have happened if I were president. But we're trying to save a lot of lives. They're losing 25, think of that, 25,000 lives over the last short period of time. That's Ukrainian and Russian. And it's a shame.
Mark, was Dan Driscoll, the Army Secretary, on your radar before the last couple of days?
No, I'll admit Barak Ravid, my colleague, is more of the Ukraine guy, and I am second chair, and I don't say that with any resentment whatsoever.
Understood.
So Barak has more knowledge of him. As for me, though, no. There had been, for a period of time, a certain amount of lack of interest in having Keith Kellogg continue on in the position in Ukraine, and I think this recent sort of shuffle sort of indicates that.
Yeah. Kellogg, of course, served in the first Trump term and has been kind of the envoy to Ukraine. Driscoll, do you know who he went to law school with?
J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance. I didn't know until an hour ago. Very good friends with J.D. Vance. And today, at some point, Driscoll on the ground in Kyiv, and the vice president talked to Zelensky, reportedly, for an hour about this. Mark, I just continue to be stunned at this deal and how one-sided it is, and how Zelensky very poignantly said today he had a choice of basically giving up his country or giving up America as an ally. I don't see how he could possibly accept it. Putin spoke for the first time about the deal and said, "Yeah, we're sort of interested in this," but didn't say either take it or leave it, or he was absolutely sold on it. So, do you have any sense of where this goes next? Is it a negotiation between the president and Zelensky? Where does this move now?
I don't know. I generally try to avoid predicting the future, especially in this region when it comes to conflict. The general feeling of Trump from the get-go is, in the Trump world, it has been that the Donbass in its entirety essentially is one day going to be won by Russia. So let's just get it over with and hand it over to them effectively and stop the killing of lives or the killing of soldiers and men. That the main thing they want to make sure of in Ukraine is that both banks of the Dnieper River, the major river that leads through Ukraine, is that both banks are not under Russian control. I'm sorry, I just got a Slack message from the office, and it threw me off for a second. And so they view the Dnieper River, if you look at a map, as essentially the Mississippi of Ukraine, and they believe, the Trump folks do, that as long as that is at least in partial Ukrainian hands, that the whole place won't fall to Russia, and they don't want the whole place to fall to Russia. For students of geography, though, if you do give up the Donetsk region, it does make it easier for Russia to then continue an invasion at a later date. And that is certainly what gives a lot of people heartburn.
Yeah, I talked to 2 members of Congress today, both Republicans, who are pretty supportive of the president, as most Republicans are. And they both were gobsmacked by this deal. So's the New York Post. Here's the headline from the New York Post. Sam, this is number 4. They see it as I see it. They see a remarkably one-sided deal. U.S. peace plan asks almost nothing of Russia, leaving some American officials questioning why Kyiv would accept it. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes, but it's very hard to understand how the U.S. thinks this could be accepted. Let's polymarket one thing here. This is number 5, Sam. Will Ukraine agree to limit the size of its armed forces in the next year or so? Will Ukraine agree to limit the size of its armed forces? You can see yesterday it was a 50% chance, according to polymarket bettors, now down to 32% chance, although it dropped to 25%. And Mark, this is one of the big issues, this question with polymarkets tested here. Armed forces limit the size. This is something Zelensky, people of all the things being asked, giving up a little bit more territory, a lot more territory, maybe. But the notion that they would limit the size of their armed forces and rely on others to protect them, a lot of people think that's got to be a bright red line for him.
Yeah. I don't think Trump really cares what other people think. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things people sort of don't understand about the difference between Trump 1 and Trump 2. Trump 1 gets in office, is a neophyte, and is besieged, and he's under investigation in the Russia probe, or as he calls it now, the Russia hoax, and is angry and has a divided team that's fighting itself.
Yeah.
Trump 2, it has a team that is cohesive and not fighting itself. He knows what he wants. He's got a full Congress, and he understands how to wield the levers of power more than he ever had. And in addition to that, he is having a good time. And he generally appears to think, I should say, that what he wants is what he should get. And if people don't like it, well, tough. He's no longer facing another election. And I think that plays into this.
Yeah.
But one person told me, like, look, Donald Trump is kind of having the time of his life.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more question. Then we're going to move back to showing some stuff from the Mamdani
Sure.
press availability. And then when we take questions from the community, I'm sure we'll get more on Ukraine. So again, please raise your hand if you're here and you want to get in the conversation. The president's given Zelensky this deadline of Thanksgiving, although he said if the talks are going okay, it could extend it. If Zelensky says no, this deal isn't close to something I could accept. The premise seems to be the U.S. will walk away, that the U.S. would basically say no more help from the United States. Is that something you think the president would be comfortable saying?
I don't know. I hesitate to understand, I hesitate to verbalize a clear understanding of what Donald Trump wants beyond what he says.
Yeah.
And I think it's been pretty clear that he likes Putin more than he likes Zelensky. I've been told that by Trump's advisors, that he admires Putin for his ability to wield power more than Zelensky. He views the world as a competition, a contest, a drama of great men and great nations. Zelensky, in his view, is not one, and Putin is. And that needs to be sort of our guide star in understanding a lot of what he does.
Yeah. And of course, the corruption stuff, who knows how that factors in. Okay. So earlier in the week, I told you, you really, as your homework assignment, you need to go watch all of the Cheney grandchildren eulogizing Grandpa. Extraordinary, not worthy of excerpting. The same with this photo op. Again, I think it was like half an hour long. We're going to show you a little bit of it now, but you should go watch the whole thing. So as I said, one of the things the reporters did was try to bait them into being critical of each other. They just wouldn't do it. So one smart reporter said, Elise Stefanik, an ally of the president, congresswoman who's running for governor of New York, has been very aggressive in saying all sorts of negative things about Mamdani, and she's close to the president. So reporter said, do you agree with Elise Stefanik that Mamdani is a jihadist? Here's how the president handled it.
Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of
She's a very capable person, but you really have to ask her about that. But I don't particularly. I think I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again, and I can say again, because New York was great.
Okay, so we already said that House Republicans and others, probably Elise Stefanik, are going to be like, kind of pulled the rug out from under us. We can't demonize this guy now. What about socialists, Democratic socialists, and Bernie Sanders and AOC? I don't think they would stand with Donald Trump for a 30-minute love fest, would they? I mean, do you think the left is going to be unhappy with this, or just eat it because it's good for New York City?
That's a great question.
Thank you. I don't know the answer, by the way.
I think the position matters. He being a mayor as opposed to being a member of Congress, right?
Right, right.
So I think that's a thing. I think Donald Trump is using Mamdani more than Mamdani is using Trump. I'm not saying that Trump is necessarily succeeding or being good at it or that it's a great idea, but Donald Trump has had kind of a bad week.
Yeah.
And it is fair to think that Donald Trump is so tired of answering questions about Epstein that he's willing to pal around with a guy he called a communist.
Right. And who his close ally called a jihadist. All right, couple more sound bites. Here's something you don't need a PhD in Trumpology to know. Trump loves when the press is into something that he's involved in. He just loves it. Loves it. And the press love this. So here's the president being president as well as a color commentator on how the press is enjoying the event. Here's saying the press is eating it up, Sam.
Press has eaten this thing up. I've had a lot of meetings with the heads of major countries. Nobody cared. This meeting that you people have gone crazy. Outside you have hundreds of people waiting. This is just a small little group. For some reason, the press has found this to be a very interesting meeting. The biggest people in the world, they come over from countries nobody cares. But they did care about this meeting, and it was a great meeting. Go ahead.
It's the Donald Trump show, man. The Donald Trump show right here.
Supporting character, Zoran Mamdani. When Mamdani became the nominee, I went on Next Up, and I said, let's give him a chance. Let's see how he does. Let's not assume the worst, because he's going to be the mayor of New York City, and almost certainly back then. And he seems like a very smart guy, and I don't believe he's anti-Semitic. I take a lot of heat for saying that, but I just don't. And now he's appointed a police. Yeah, we can discuss it. He appointed a police commissioner who's Jewish, by the way, and
most of my friends are Jewish, right? Yeah,
very well respected. And he also just spent 30 minutes in the Oval Office with Donald Trump talking about their shared agenda. So I wonder what I'd like everybody to weigh in on this. But anyway, let's show one more. And again, this very representative of the whole thing. The president saying, Sam, that he's going to be helping Mamdani, not trying to hurt him.
Had a meeting today that actually surprised me. He wants to see no crime. He wants to see housing being built. He wants to see rents coming down, all things that I agree with. Now, we may disagree how we get there, the rent coming down. I think one of the things I really gleaned very much today, he'd like to see him come down, ideally, by building a lot of additional housing. Yeah. That's the ultimate way. He agrees with that, and so do I. But if I read the newspapers and the stories, I don't hear that, but I heard him say it today, and I think that's a very positive step. No, I don't expect. I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. A big help, because I want New York City to be great. Look, I love New York City. It's where I come from. I spent a lot of years there. Now I'm right here. We took a big setback with the mayor that we had, Dave de Blasio. I thought it was a tremendous setback for the city. I think this mayor can do some things that are going to be really great.
He's so surprised that Mamdani didn't want high crime.
Right, exactly, and lower prices. I don't read the chat. I don't read the chat. I glance at it. Mamdani did speak. The president turned to him. I don't know, Sam, do we have that? Do we have his statement? I don't know. He did speak. And he did answer some questions. We don't have it. Okay, he spoke. The president turned to him and he spoke, and he was equally gracious. And if we can get that, let's get his statement if we can get it. All right, Mark, one more on this, then I want to move on to other topics, and we'll open it up to questions, because I know people have questions about all this stuff. This is again just I'm not shocked or surprised even that it was friendly, but just how friendly it was. Mamdani is a very smart guy, and so is
Yep.
the president. They're
Smooth,
both
charismatic.
And I don't think he was nervous. He was not in his normal style, but I think he was trying to be respectful. He didn't want to come off as brash. I don't think he was nervous. I think he was just feeling through. Uh, one of the questions I've had, and that was in the context of demonization, but now we're I think in a different place is, well, two questions. First, keying off what I said before, does Elise Stefanik go back to demonizing him?
Why not? Hey, in for a penny, in for a pound, you know?
Yeah, and what does she
have?
say? Yeah, but what does she say? Well, she can say Kathy Hochul's a failed mayor, a failed governor, because what does she say when people say to her, "Well, the president says he's a great guy and he's going to work with him"? She's not going to be able to answer as easily as the president.
Elise Stefanik is not going to be the first politician and person from Trump's orbit to suddenly have the rug pulled out from under her.
Yeah,
by Trump.
But again, will Republicans regularly demonize him or not?
I imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure because I don't know how they respond to the president of your party says give him a chance.
I understand that. I mean, you're thinking that everybody's a high information voter, and they're not. And then in addition, like we know this because we live and breathe this. And in the end, I mean, what else? If you look at the polling,
there's plenty else.
Look at the polling. Like, I don't think there's plenty else. Like Republicans are in trouble heading into this midterm right now.
Yeah. Right? Well, that's true.
What do they have?
Yeah. I was speaking specifically about Elise Stefanik, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's a tweet from Brad Lander. Brad Lander is he the comptroller? I should know. Yes, he's about to finish his term as comptroller. He's very close to Mamdani. And this tweet was reposted by the NYC Loves Zoran ! Account. And here's the tweet. Pretty sure Zoran just charmed Donald Trump into agreeing that he's a fascist. It's a very funny tweet. It's a very funny tweet.
Who is it?
Brad Lander. But the point is like this whole thing is discombobulating. That's my point. That Brad Lander is joking about it. Anyway, we may play more when we get to the we find the Mamdani statement. But let's run through some other stuff again.
I'm ready, Mark.
It's ready? Okay, play that.
All right, let's do it.
Around the world. I would like to ask Mr. Mamdani, you've accused the U.S. government of committing genocide in Gaza while President Trump was working on peace. Why that?
I've spoken about the Israeli government committing genocide, and I've spoken about our government funding it. And I shared with the president in our meeting about the concern that many New Yorkers have of wanting their tax dollars to go towards the benefit of New Yorkers and their ability to afford basic dignity. And what we see right now is we're in the 9th consecutive year of more than 100,000 school children being homeless in our city. And there's a desperate need not only for the following of human rights, but also the following through on the promises we've made New Yorkers. And I appreciated the meeting we had and the work that we can do.
Do you agree that President Trump didn't do a peace and work hard to make the peace? Because he worked hard to do the peace in the Middle East and everywhere. Do you agree with that?
I appreciate all efforts towards peace, and I shared with President Trump that when I spoke to Trump voters on Hillside Avenue, including one of whom was a pharmacist that spoke about how President Trump's father actually went to that pharmacy not too far from Jamaica Estates, that people were tired of seeing our tax dollars fund endless wars. And I also believe that we have to follow through on the international human rights, and I know that still today those are being violated, and that continues to be work that has to be done no matter where we're speaking of.
Mr. President.
All right, so that wasn't his opening statement, but his opening statement was the same tonally. And again, his opening statement, he just said how great the meeting was and how pleased he was to be able to work with the president and how grateful he was for the opportunity. All right, we'll come back to this in your questions, I'm sure. But let's run through just a few other topics. This whole thing about this video that the 6 Democrats made, I find it very vexing. I find the president's reaction very vexing. And I find the notion that they were ordering or they were encouraging active duty military to defy legal orders to be confusing because it said just the opposite. So I don't want to talk about this at great length because the story bothers me. But does this stay alive? Do those 6 continue to be on TV every day? No. By Thanksgiving, it's
I'm just guessing because
we're
in an era where things just die quickly anyway.
Yeah. All right. I'm done with that thing. All right.
Thank you.
13. Comey subpoenas the Clintons to give depositions on Epstein. We've got Congress investigating the Clintons. In theory, we have the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District of New York investigating Bill Clinton. Does that go anywhere? The Clintons in some
No,
peril? No?
no, no. Statute of limitation. I think. Well, hold on. Is sex no sex traffic? Does sex trafficking a minor have a
I think everything does.
everything? Yeah. Well, murder doesn't. But
Yeah, but how about
Um,
how about it just forget legal peril? How about just embarrassment?
I mean, I think there's probably a measure of embarrassment there. The main reason that Donald Trump has sicked Pam Bondi on them to do this is to just, even though the appearance of it to conventional minded people is bad, of having the president fling his attorney general onto investigating people, he'll take that hit as long as it means that the name like Bill Clinton or Clinton and Epstein are in a headline and not him, right? And there's undoubtedly stuff there, so he's just he's gonna force the conversation in a very sort of a harsh way, and he doesn't care about the collateral damage it might cause.
Right. All right. Here's the Maxwell headline. Um, uh, 14. Comer says she says her lawyer says she'll take the fifth in the House Epstein probe. The late sex offender's convicted co-conspirator has been subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee.
Mm.
Her status, having been moved to this minimum security prison in Texas, away from the horrible gator-filled prison in Florida, where everything's gator-filled.
Tallahassee, baby.
Yeah. Does it where do you think that stands? Any idea?
I have absolutely no idea. It's certainly difficult to not see her getting preferential treatment after saying things that the recent Epstein emails showed to be demonstrably untrue.
Right.
But yet she did her part. If there is a tacit agreement for her to say things that are exculpatory for President Trump, right after she said those exculpatory things, she got moved to a nice place, a nicer place. I would say it's a nice place. It's still a prison.
Here's Roger Wicker. Back to Ukraine. Roger Wicker is the Republican chairman of the Armed Services Committee. He calls the peace deal a so-called peace proposal, says it would, quote, reward Putin's malign behavior and won't actually achieve peace. Ukraine should not be forced to give up its lands to one of the world's most flagrant war criminals in Vladimir Putin. The size and disposition of Ukraine's armed forces is a sovereign choice for its government and people. That's basically what I heard privately. Well, I didn't talk to Wicker, but I talked to people like that, and they're just gobsmacked about it. And I just, if Europe's against it, Zelensky's against it, a lot of American politicians are against it. I don't know. I just don't see how that deal is going to go anywhere. But
well, maybe not. But Donald Trump had said before he's always willing to sell weapons to Ukraine.
yeah,
Is the United States no longer going to do that? And in the end, a through line between the first Trump administration and this Trump administration and everything he said is Europe needs to handle Europe's problems.
right.
And in the Trump view, Ukraine is a European problem, not American problem. If
Right.
the Europeans want to fix it, they've got to do it.
Right.
But then we start to implicate the idea of NATO type forces being involved. And then what happens if Putin, for instance, like strikes Poland or Lithuania or something?
Okay, let's talk about the presidential candidates in 2028. If you haven't yet listened to my next up interview with Patty Solis Doyle, I recommend it to you. She's insightful as usual on the question of this topic of Gavin Newsom. And we've watched closely as Gavin Newsom has, by various, some soft metrics, qualitative, but some quantitative, fundraising, for instance. We've watched him establish what Patty and I agreed was a pretty substantial front-runner position. Early states matter most, right? You can be doing great nationally, like Rudy Giuliani, for instance, was when he ran for president in 2008. But you got to win early states. It's just the way the system's built.
Well, he thought he could win Florida at the time.
Exactly,
remember?
right.
Yeah,
But but it wasn't first. Florida was like fifth. And
no,
so the question,
Florida, I think, we went fourth or fifth, and
I think it was
thought he
fifth.
could just ignore these states. And
yeah,
then
you can't skip the others. So who will vote first, second, third, and fourth? The critical question. One state that most might is the state with Las Vegas. Mark, how do you pronounce that state's name?
Nevada.
Nevada, not Nevada. Nevada.
It's not Nevada. It's Nevada.
Nevada. Thank you. I never can do it. Anyway, Emerson did a poll out there of Democratic presidential candidates for 2028. And will Gavin Newsom emerge on top? Oh, yes, he will.
Oh,
37% for Newsom, Buttigieg 19, AOC 9, Harris only 6, Bashir 4, Pritzker 4, Shapiro 3. So 37% in a now it's a Western state. Maybe they see him more. It's borders California, of course, but 37%. And then let's look at the national poly market question. We'll poly market this. Our partners at Polymarket have a market up now. Who will the Democrats nominate in 2028? Go back, Sam, to the previous slide. There you go. 37% there, 30%, 38% odds, according to Polymarket wagers. You can go to the Polymarket one now. 37. Here's 38% chance that Newsom will be the nominee. AOC 12, Buttigieg 5, Harris only 4%. Let's focus first on the state poll. Is that that kind of lead for a guy who's not even an announced candidate, has never been a presidential candidate? Does that seem do you attach any significance to that, or is that just the sugar high of his recent news coverage?
well, I came up with in 2023 when Donald Trump got indicted for the first of 4 times, and the DeSantis people were like, "Oh, this is just a sugar high." And the story I wound up doing was, what happens if everyone's just eating sugar and there's an endless supply of sugar? And we might be in a constant sugar high world. So yeah, it's a sugar high, but it's still a high.
Yeah.
What's wrong with a little bit of sugar? So it reflects the realities of the modern political, social media environment, the media environment, and the attention economy. And so far, Gavin Newsom has been very good at capitalizing that and monetizing that. Monetizing here would be kind of a lowercase m. I mean, he's been very good at taking advantage of that situation.
Brilliantly said. Now, what about the poly market? To me, it's going to be hard for anybody to take that away from him anytime soon. And the fact that Harris's number is so low, put the poly market back up, Sam, if you would. I mean, it's an extraordinarily daunting prospect to say, how's someone going to get enough attention and ballast to close the gap? AOC gets tons of attention. She can get on TV anytime she wants. She's behind by I'm not good at math, but it's like 26,
she doesn't cut
26 points.
The thing is like Newsom has done a lot of the spade work that the other ones haven't.
Yeah.
Newsom went on Sean Hannity. Newsom had a debate with Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Newsom is not scared, worried, intimidated, or second guessed by the idea of appearing on a podcast with, RIP Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Right? That was one of his things. Like, I'll go anywhere and I'll talk to anyone. And he acquits himself very well. And until an AOC does that or a Harris does that, Buttigieg can to a degree. Great. But, Buttigieg has got a lot of problems. I can't remember what poll it was that showed in one, he barely cracked like a single digit of African-American support.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It was finding black supporters for Buttigieg was like finding Iowans for Jeb Bush in 2000.
Please clap.
In 2016, that they wanted to do focus groups to see what people liked about Jeb, and they had trouble finding anybody. Reminder that our partners at Polymarket are coming to the U.S. soon, and if you want to find out more about being able to bet on those markets here from America, go to polymarket.com/USA. All right, a quick word from a sponsor, and then to your question. So if you want to get in on the conversation with Mark about Ukraine or about Mamdani or anything else, please raise your hand. Another huge sale from another sponsor, and this one will allow you to fit into your Cozy Earth clothes. This is from the folks at Brickhouse Nutrition. Brickhouse Nutrition is having a 30% off sale for Black Friday discount. Go to brickhouse.com and get 30% off. You don't need a promo code, goes right to the website. This is 30% off everything, including products from Lean, doctor-formulated weight loss products that don't involve doing any injections, from creatine, designed specifically for women to help lose weight, and Field of Greens, super fruit and vegetable drink. All available now. Better health results make you feel possible to lose weight without yo-yoing, losing weight in an unsafe way and then gaining it all back. And again, without any sort of injectable. Go to right now before the sale ends, 30% off, brickhousesale.com. 30% off all the products there. Go right now, brickhousesale.com. 30% off one last time, brickhousesale.com. Mark, Andre is a staunch member of our community who does a lot of work with Ukraine. You can see the flag behind him.
Yeah.
Desperate to hear, sir. Welcome in from New York City. What do you think of this proposed deal, and where do you think it's headed? And then you can ask whatever you want. But I'm starting by asking you what you think, because you're so connected to all of this stuff.
There's a lot of confusion because it came prospectively out of nowhere, wasn't vetted with Congress, wasn't really discussed a lot with state, kept in-house on the Witkoff side. And then Driscoll, I mean, you make the good connection with J.D. Vance and the law school connection there. The glowing report on it was a Politico that said that Hegseth is nowhere to be seen, but Driscoll is this rising star. So clear shades of what the next administration would have of a defense secretary, if not Secretary of State. However, I would point to a couple of comments made from Ukraine today, not least of which the tweet that was put out by Zelensky after the hour-long phone call with Vance, in which he said he's working with the U.S. administration and he is looking forward to it moving forward to the next step where it'll be discussed at the level of national security advisors, obviously pointing to somebody else in the administration that probably Ukraine has a better relationship with, or at least he's been to Ukraine, as opposed to Steve Witkoff, who has promised Andriy Yermak several times this year he's going to visit Ukraine. Still hasn't made it, but he sent that proposal over for Driscoll to discuss. So main question is, how does the last week of chinks in the armor of President Trump relate to what we're going to see out of Congress? I saw that Brian Fitzpatrick, not just the head problem solver, but also he's the co-chair of the Ukraine caucus. He is asking for a privilege resolution. I mean, we're at one a week at this point, aren't we? Of privilege resolutions in Congress, trying to push the sanctions bill this is the one that was agreed to with 85 sponsors in the Senate, which still isn't up for a vote there. But what about these cracks in the armor of President Trump, where people have been talking but not voting against him? Is the Epstein vote something that should point to a significant, not just vocal stance against President Trump, but are they actually going to vote against him, whether it's the sanctions or something else?
You mean specifically on Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
Mark, my sense is, just to tee you up, if there were an up or down vote in Congress on this package, regardless of what Trump's position is, I can't think of almost anybody who'd vote for it, right?
Who'd vote for it?
Yeah. There'd be almost no member of Congress who'd say Zelensky should give in to
Rand Paul.
I don't mean, I'm sorry, not on the sanctions. I mean on the peace deal. So your point is, will they defy him on sanctions as a means of expressing their disapproval of the measure? And it's a great question, and because of course Speaker Johnson doesn't want involvement historically, but at the same time, like, well, if you don't stand up to Putin now, you'll be fighting him in the Champs-Élysées, some might say. Right. Mark, thoughts on how Congress will play out here?
I think it will be vote specific. There is a little less of a fear factor involved, but Donald Trump might be a bit of a wounded bear, not that much, but he's still a bear. He can still maul you if you're a Republican. So the juice ain't worth the squeeze. However, on some things they will be. Now, will we see would Donald Trump veto a sanctions package that overwhelmingly passes Congress? He might, if he feels that it infringes on his power. And then they might override him and he might take it. Just to plug some of my own work, although not a lot of people read it, but I wrote it anyway. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia was in the Oval Office on Tuesday, and they were palling around, and he was asked about the 9/11 families. And he said, his heart goes out to them, but, we can't let people come in between the United States relationship with Saudi Arabia. And what I thought was interesting is that he was essentially sort of suggesting that the family's lawsuit against Saudi Arabia would interfere with that relationship. Right. And the family's lawsuit is only able to go forward thanks to a law called JASTA, which allows people to sue states that sponsor terrorism, and it was passed in 2016. It was the only law that was vetoed by Obama that was overridden by Congress.
Yep.
And Obama vetoed it because it interfered, ostensibly, he said, with his ability to conduct foreign policy. I can
Yep.
see Donald Trump doing the same thing, and I
Yep.
can see Congress overriding him. Sorry, I went on.
Yeah, no, that was super important, super well said. I'll say this to your question. Congress is not in much the rest of the year, right? Because the holidays. So the president, to the
They're real
extent,
hard workers, those guys,
yeah,
man.
to the
Real hard workers.
extent that their objections might be galvanizing. It's like not a lot of time to do that. Thank you for that. So because I multitask, I was glancing at the chat, I was listening to the conversation, I was also looking at liberal Twitter. And I'm not sure this will be the only point of view, but I saw two tweets along the same lines from prominent liberals. Here's how they're dealing with the cognitive dissonance of their hero, Mr. Mamdani, standing like Bush casting the Sundance Kid with their enemy Donald Trump. Here's their line. Mamdani owned him. Mamdani went in there and he hoodwinked him and he owned him and he got props, and this shows the power of Mamdani. So that's, I think, psychologically how they're going to justify fraternization with the fascists. Peter, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Mark.
I am in Malibu, California. I am a student at Pepperdine Law School.
10 stars law school.
That's right. Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Dean Starr.
Former dean, yes. I mean, it's interesting. I have a different perspective on Ukrainian events than my good friend Andre.
Yeah. As Jon Stewart would say, go on.
I mean, I would just start by, like, you sort of put it in certain words earlier when you were speaking, this idea, like, what is crazy about the fact that, the territory that, would be ostensibly ceded in a demilitarized form by the Ukrainians under this agreement is like, I don't, and I can look at like Western and, Ukrainian analysts and figures who say that there's no path to victory for Ukraine on the battlefield. And I would say, from what I've read, that the loss of the Donbass, the remaining parts of the Donbass, is a military inevitability at this point. And if
they've been saying that for years.
Peter,
I'm not saying you're wrong, but they've just said it for
I'm talking about people who haven't spoken up before, like, for example, the former chief of British Defense Staff who gave an interview a while ago. Like, I'm not talking about like RT, right? These are not like pro-Russian people.
Peter, I have said from the minute this deal was first put out that there was always going to be a deal on the land side like this. Like, it's not that. It's the lack of any meaningful security guarantees for Ukraine. All the things we've talked about, letting them build up their defense forces, having a European defense force on the ground, having robust U.S. intelligence help, having robust access to U.S. weaponry, having the threat of NATO membership lingering out there. None of that is part of this deal. So the land, I totally agree with you. It's unfortunate. It's rewarding Putin for his hostility, but it's inevitable. If there's going to ever be a deal, it's inevitable. But to have all that and one fake security guarantee,
that territory on the battlefield, it won't be demilitarized. It won't be demilitarized.
100%. I couldn't agree. Well, or
I don't think it's going to be demilitarized anyway. I mean,
I'm saying that's what the agreement said. You can take it at face value or not. That's what it says. Well, but I think the other,
how can you give up the land with no security guarantee?
Well, I think that beyond,
just negotiation.
Clearly it's a red line for the Russians that NATO will not be on the table. I think other things outside of that could still potentially be negotiated over. I'm not saying that this would necessarily have to be the final form that an agreement would take, but I think the noises that I hear from people like Roger Wicker in Congress and others who basically see like everything in this as just insanity is just not based in reality. And given the military trajectory, these are worse terms than were on the table a year, 2, 3 years ago. And assuming that the military trajectory continues the way that it is, which I see no reason to see why that wouldn't be the case, any terms that are on a deal that'll be on the table 6 months to a year from now will be even worse, and more people will be dead. And what will there be to show for it?
I agree with everything you just said. I agree with everything you just said. But I just do not think history will look kindly at the notion that Zelensky and his people, after fighting valiantly, I don't care about the corruption. I do, but I don't care about it in this context. After fighting valiantly to repel Putin, all the sacrifices they made, being told give up pretty much the maximum land that anybody talked about, and have
I
no
think
serious defense guarantees. I don't know how. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that our country thought that was a deal that the Ukrainians and the Europeans should accept. Truly, I'm embarrassed. I'm stupefied and embarrassed because it's a Russian deal. It's just what Russia would want. Give us all the land, have no security, and if we want to take more later, of course we will.
I don't think and again, this is not an endorsement for the record. This is just this is descriptive, not prescriptive.
I
But
understand.
if you look at what, like, from the perspective of a lot of Russians, this is actually not the maximum demands. Like, you can say that that's terrible, that's horrible, whatever. Like, this is like,
What didn't they get that they might have wanted?
Odessa, the parts of Kharkov and Sumy that they
Dude,
hold, things like that. I'm just saying, this is what they say. This is why Medvedev has reinvented himself from being a pro-Western, relatively pro-Western liberal 10 plus years ago to what his current incarnation is, because that is the most significant, that is a significant strain of Russian public opinion that they have to worry about.
Understand. And just to be clear, not that everybody's interested in chronicling my nuanced views on all this. I'm like very sympathetic to the Russian perspective that this encirclement of Russia put them in a very uncomfortable position, and they felt they had no choice but to stretch out. I'm very sympathetic to that, and I think history will record that perhaps the West made a mistake in partnerships for peace and other things that the Russians cite as having been threatening. But we are where we are, and I don't know. I'm confused by it. Peter, thank you. Grateful to you. Another quick word, and then we'll go back to your questions. This is from our friends at Ethos. Mark, you got life insurance?
I do. I have Mass Mutual.
All right. Well, Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy. Be like Mark Caputo. You should really, that's advice that applies to nearly everything, but particularly if you're the breadwinner in your family, like Mark is in his, you need life insurance to protect your family for things like mortgage payments, tuition, other bills. Right now is the time to go to ethos.com and the online platform. It's fast and it's easy. You can get your family's future protected in minutes, not months. Not a very complicated process. It's all done online. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few health questions. You get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/2way. Ethos.com/2way. Application times might vary. Rates may vary, but this is an opportunity for you to go get a free quote to make sure your family is protected. Ethos.com/2way. Cal, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Mark after you unmute.
I'm in Sumter, South Carolina, and I look forward to Miami Mark's game day tweets versus Virginia Tech tomorrow.
We'll probably we might just blow that, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is Franklin going to coach as a guest coach in the game?
Good question. It's the real question is whether we're going to actually run a less predictable offense. We did last week, but who knows?
Impossible. Anyway, anyway,
hold on 1 second before you move off that. Mark, if we did after the game a 30 or 90 or 60-minute two-way post-game show, would you be part of that?
Oh, for a Hurricanes game?
Yeah, for a Hurricanes game.
Oh yeah,
no,
probably.
Don't agree to that. Don't agree to that. It's a trap.
Right.
It's a trap.
Admiral Akbar. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, Cal, go ahead. Move off football just briefly.
Oh, no, I'm going. I don't want to talk about football. I just want to talk about. Anyway, Ukraine. I think that there's a couple things on the 28 points that I have a question about for the West, and you guys can answer this question. Is, you know, I want to preface that I'm not pro-Russia. I would actually probably say I'm pro-Ukraine, but Russia occupies a third of their country, right? So they're seemingly advancing though like a glacier, right? They're advancing every day, right, on the front, and Ukraine's army is running out of manpower. And I wonder, and just like the previous gentleman said very aptly, I don't think there's going to be a better deal in a year when they're sitting on Kramatorsk and the major fortress cities on the border when the Russians have finally taking them. On the army size, 600,000 men for their military would be the combined armies of France, Germany, and Britain combined now, right? Would be the same size. So, I mean, I don't know if that's the worst thing. In Ukraine, pre-war had 150,000 troops in their army. So, I mean, I think in a post-war army, they would reduce their size anyway. But I think Ukraine does, I think, Mark, I would refute, they do get some nuggets in this, right? And the major nugget in any war is they're still independent, right? I mean, Russia in the first week of the war tried to take Kiev, right? And knock the whole place over. So they do get that piece is there. I think they also, if they're not restrained from joining the EU, right? Which would be a kind of a security guarantee because the EU does have their own military council, right? And it would integrate them economically with the rest of the Europeans. And I know that, and here's the other piece that I think that is, people in Congress can say what they want, but do you really think there's an appetite, not in the Beltway or in the punditry class, but in the American public for really a bilateral military alliance with Ukraine after the war, with a security guarantee, with U.S. troops? I mean, I don't care who the president is. I don't think anybody pulls that off right now. But
I think but I think that's why there was so much conversation about a U.S. supported European force, right?
But I mean, does even the Europeans would they?
The French and the British said they would, and they want U.S. intelligence support and be able to buy U.S. weapons. Part of my frustration of this topic, not with you, but just in general, is there's no good answers.
No, it's all bad.
There are no good answers. Everything's bad. But to me, the best thing was, J.D. Vance told the Europeans, grow up, be adults. This is your war, not ours. So the French and the British said, yeah, you're right. We'll put troops in, but we need your intelligence and maybe some air support if it comes to that. That's the best solution amongst a lot of bad solutions. There's no appetite for American forces there, but drones and intelligence and spies, we can special forces, we can help with all that. I'm not sure it would help if Putin threatened tactical nuclear weapons, but again, amongst a series of bad choices, this was decent.
Yeah, but I mean, in the 28-point plan, I mean, there's no Western forces. Is that part of the?
No, it's all no. There's nothing. There's this flimsy thing that says we'll consider an attack on Ukraine to be an attack on NATO, but meaningless.
Yeah, but there's what was it with our Taiwan strategic ambiguity, right? Right, like you can be vague on it. I mean, and to be honest with you, how long are the British and French going to commit to a long-term military deployment?
Just till Putin dies. That's all. Till Putin dies. All right. Go ahead. One more point, Cal.
I just think that you hit the nail on the head. This is a series of bad decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't know that as the previous gentleman said, I would echo his point. I don't know that the bad decisions get less bad if we go on another year and the Russians do advance further.
100%. Cal, thank you. Thank you very much. Mark, tell us about the Caputo Thanksgiving.
I think we're going to do 23 people,
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
27 pounds. Yeah, we always have big Thanksgiving. So we're going to have
and you are you a stuffing guy?
Yeah, I'm a stuffing guy.
You like meat in your stuffing?
No, there's enough meat in the turkey. I mean, it's like a 27-pound bird,
Okay.
So, and my wife, Erin, is very skilled at turkey cooking or baking.
Yeah.
And the secret to a turkey is the dry brine.
Yeah.
You gotta dry brine your turkey.
Everybody write that down.
You got to dry and use.
I don't even know what it means, but write it down.
It means rub salt in it.
No, I know.
And you can use kosher salt because of the texture of it. Now you can also wrap your turkey in bacon if you really want to have a little extra juice. And then if you really want, which we don't do, you can inject your turkey with butter or with a giant syringe. But you got to dry brine your turkey, folks.
Yeah. I've told my son the most important words in the English language besides "I love you" are wrapped in bacon. It's a lesson he's learned. He's only.
I love you wrapped in bacon, Mark Halperin.
Exactly. Mark, happy holidays. Very grateful to you for making time.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Grateful to see you. All right, everybody, remember your vacation assignment is to watch all the Cheney grandkids, the eulogies for Grandpa, and to watch the full Mamdani Trump photo op. We are off next week. This program will not be on. Morning meeting will not be on. So all of us, including you all, including the folks who put the shows together, can take some time off. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with what I'm doing next week. And then and Substack. And then Monday, December 1st, both programs back. The morning meeting will be back with a new cast. Join us to find out who will be there. And then this program will be back also December 1st, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you for being part of the two-way community. I wish you and yours a very, very happy and restful holiday week. And dry rub your turkey, according to Mark Caputo. Thank you all for watching. See you on December 1st.